This is Gabriela on the scene today with Talk Network Radio. We have a real treat for you just around the corner, and that is Empowered Living with Jeff Byrd. Jeff is the owner of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and he will be coming to you weekly to teach you more about empowered living. Now, let's join Jeff already in the studio.
Hello and welcome. This is Jeff Byrd of Jeffrey Byrd Coaching, and I am so pleased that you have tuned in and are joining us today on our first ever episode of Empowered Living. Our topic today is going to be, who do you think you are? Now, maybe we've been asked that question throughout our lives by parents or siblings or others who somehow doubted our view and vision of ourselves. Maybe they thought we were a little too grand for what we really were. But I'd like to explore the possibility today that maybe we don't sometimes think as grandly of ourselves as what we really are. So as a point of departure, I would like to visit a passage in Luke 19 about a man named Zacchaeus. Luke 19 verses 1 through 10 read, "He entered Jericho and was passing through. And there was a man called by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and he was rich. Zacchaeus was trying to see who Jesus was and was unable because of the crowd, for he was small in stature. So he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree in order to see him, for he was about to pass through that way. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, 'Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for today I must stay at your house.' And he hurried and came down and received him gladly. When they saw it, they all began to grumble, saying, 'He has gone to be the guest of a man who is a sinner.' Zacchaeus stopped and said to the Lord, 'Behold, Lord, half of my possessions I will give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will give back 4 times as much.' And Jesus said to him, 'Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost.'" In this story today, we have Zacchaeus, and we're told that he was a chief tax collector, that he was rich, and maybe that's how he identified himself. We're also told that he was short, and we don't know how that played into his self-image, but from societal standards, often we think of people who have position, like he was a chief tax collector. That was a high position in his day, and who were rich as doing very well. But that is different. That image of ourselves does not always bring the fulfillment that we would seek. We've tragically seen this play out this past week in a couple of very famous people, Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain, who, in spite of being famous, being wealthy, being influential, ended up taking their own lives. There was something that was missing, and missing apparently to a very significant degree, so much so that they didn't want to go on. So how we view who we are and who we think we are is very important. It can make the difference between going on to the next day and doing it joyfully, or deciding, hey, it's just not worth it. I'm just done here. So I'd like to look at a number of things here. I've got a few things to give you today. Number one, when it comes to worldly success, that's not the same as significance and fulfillment. Success can be building our own ladder, but as we've seen, many people get to the top of that ladder and find out it was leaning against the wrong wall. Success is building our ladder, but significance, which is where fulfillment comes from, is helping somebody else build theirs, doing something of value for other people. Some of the most fulfilled people in the world, even though they be very poor, are the ones who are that have invested their lives and are investing their lives in building up others. So Zacchaeus, he had worldly success, but he had, number 2, he had unfulfilled significance issues. His true identity was unfulfilled, and the hunger drove him for more. We don't know what he heard about Jesus, but when he heard that he was coming by, he was driven. You see him trying to get ahead of the crowd, trying to see him climbing up the tree. There's a sense of earnestness here. He knows that there's something more than what he's previously experienced, and he wants to get it. He wants to get to see Jesus. Whatever he heard or whatever he sensed caused him to believe that there was something there that was greater than anything he had ever known and experienced before. But he has a problem. This is number 3. He has a lack of vision. Now, in this case, it's because he was short and he couldn't see past the people around him to see Jesus clearly. Isn't this the way it is sometimes? How symbolic is that of our life experience? Very often we can't see who we really are because of the other people, their opinions, their thinking, their messages that have gotten in the way, that have gotten into our thinking. Like the one young woman who came up to me and she said, I want to be a nurse. She said, but everything I've ever tried to do in my life, my mother's told me, you can't do that. That's not for you. You're not smart enough, fast enough, and educated enough, rich enough, pretty enough. You're not. But that's not the truth. Other people, we borrow their belief until we ultimately adopt it as our own. But very often we can adopt the wrong beliefs when it comes from other people. Other people, as in the case with Zacchaeus, can keep us from seeing what we really need to see who we really are, and to receive our calling that's going to bring the greatest fulfillment and our greatest significance to others. But he had this hunger for wholeness, and he ran on ahead. He climbed into the sycamore tree, and Jesus came right to where he was, and he looked up at him. He made contact. He found the common ground. And then he gives him a calling. Jesus says, come down. Today I'm staying at your house. Now, that was all there was to it that we're told as of that moment. He didn't tell him, listen, you've been a bad guy. You need to clean up your act. You need to go and give this. We're not told that he told him any of that. He came to him, and apparently the tone that I feel is a tone of joy and of happiness. Come down, Zacchaeus. I'm staying at your house today. Come on, let's go, buddy. That's how it comes across to me. But then what Zacchaeus did as he's going with Jesus, and these other people see that Jesus has gone with him, and they start complaining against Jesus. Hey, what's he doing with this guy? This guy's a bad guy. This guy defrauds people. This guy takes what isn't his. Tax collectors were known for that back in the day. What's he doing? And as soon as Zacchaeus hears that, he aligns with his true purpose. He gets a vision of blessing other people, not trying to bless himself. Previously, he had been blessing himself at other people's expense. Now he turns and he begins blessing other people at his own expense. He catches a greater vision of what his true identity is. He came in touch with Jesus and he gets this vision that, hey, there's more than just trying to accumulate for myself. And then he says, hey, I'm going to give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I've defrauded anyone of anything, I'm going to give 4 times as much back. Now I'm no longer taking. Now I'm giving. I've gotten the previous mindset didn't fulfill me. Now I've gotten a new vision and a new call. I've seen it modeled in this man named Jesus. And now I just naturally want to align. And so he aligns and he becomes fulfilled in a way he's never been fulfilled before. Jesus, you can feel the joy in his words when he aligns and decides to give away that money. And Jesus turns to him and he pronounces this over him. He says, today salvation has come to this house. And he gives him a new identity. He says, because you too are a son of Abraham. He gets a new fulfillment and he gets a new identity. So a few personal applications I'd like to take from this is the first question for all of us is, how do we identify ourselves? What are we basing it on? Is it based on our past? Is it based on mistakes we've made? Is it based on the opinions of others? Is it based on our perceived success, our family line, our heritage? What is it based on? How do we identify it? Or is it based on a calling that we have to serve and add value to others from the inner resources we've been given? Okay. Second, everyone has to ask this question. What gives us value? What gives us value? Is it our portfolio, family, heritage, our ability, our intellect, our vocation? Where does our true value come from? Often I'll ask women in an audience, I'll say, how many mothers do we have? And many hands will go up, and then I'll ask them, I'll say, okay, I want each one of you to think back and remember the first time that you held your firstborn in your arms. I'll say, everybody got that? Hands will all go up. I said, now let me ask you this. Was there any one of you that doubted that child had infinite value? And not one hand will go up. I've asked that to hundreds, thousands of people. Not one hand has ever gone up. Everybody knows that child has infinite value before they've done anything. It's inherent. It's a spiritual heritage. But what do we pin that value to? So often we pin it to much lesser things and passing things. And I like to teach that I can tell how much anyone values anything by seeing what they're willing to give up for it. That's if it's a watch, a purse, shoes, a house, a car, a vacation. I can tell what that's worth to you by what you're willing to give up for it. And in the same way, when it comes to God, I believe I can tell what you and I are worth to him by what he's been willing to give up for us, which Jesus would later reveal. So next question is, what inside of you longs for greater fulfillment? Just like Zacchaeus, he was very fulfilled in many ways. But yet there was something missing that caused him to run and to climb a tree and to want to get a look at Jesus. What inside of you today longs for greater fulfillment? Just think about that. Let that sink in. We're all, it's in our DNA to be more, have more, and do more. And we're all growing. There's a part of every one of us, no matter how fulfilled we are, that longs for greater fulfillment. Where does that lie? Is it in relationships? Is it in vocation? What is it? There's something, we're made to do something that nobody else on earth can do. Every single one of us has that uniqueness. And what is it in you today that longs for greater fulfillment? And sometimes we can help answer that question by asking, what do we have that could be given or developed to benefit others? What strengths, what uniqueness do you have? Zacchaeus, well, he had a lot of money. He was a chief tax collector. He had money to give, so he could bless people that way. What do you have to give? We'll get more into this into the next session. So I hope you come back and join us there. We're going to define how do you tell just things you could do versus a true sense of calling. And then the last thing on the personal application is who has seen value and ability in you that you didn't see? I have a dear friend. I'm actually meeting her for dinner this evening, she and her husband. And years ago, she saw abilities and potential that I had that I could not see. And she created opportunities for me, which have led a long, long ways and have accomplished a number of things, led to good results. And I told her one time, I said, I really appreciate you seeing in me what I didn't see. And she responded to me. She said, well, I only saw what was obvious. And I told her back, I said, but it wasn't obvious to me. Sometimes it takes other people to help us with this calling and to bring forth what those gifts and abilities that could be strengthened and could be a huge benefit to others on the job, in our families, in our community, in our world. Sometimes it takes other people to help call them out. So I would ask you right now to think about who has seen value and ability in you that you didn't see and helped call that forth and help create opportunities. Make a specific plan right now. Don't do it if you're driving, but if you're at home, or later if you are driving, jot down a note of when you will have thanked them by and reach out and say, hey, you know what? You seeing that in me, you calling that forth, you giving me that opportunity, that's made such a difference in me. Okay. I would also like to give you 6 leadership lessons because the purpose of this program is to build us as far as business, as far as leadership, and as far as our lives go. And so I want to give you some leadership lessons here. The first one is, from the example in this story, is that leaders notice those who are hungry for more. Jesus noticed Zacchaeus running ahead and climbing into that tree. And he said, wow, nobody does that unless they're hungry for more. Jesus took notice. Second thing is leaders seek those who are hungry for more. He didn't just notice and pass on by. He stopped at Zacchaeus' tree and he looked up. He came to common ground. Leaders find common ground with people. He came to the same ground where Zacchaeus was and he looked up at him. He made eye contact. That's a good way of connecting with people, is if you have good eye contact. He comes to the common ground and he looks at him and he connects with them. And then third, leaders build relationship with those who are hungry for more. He came to him and he said, come on down, Zacchaeus. I'm going to stay at your house today. So he noticed him, he sought him, and now he starts building a relationship. Hey, we're going to talk along the way to your house. I'm going to stay at your house. I'm going to impart some things to you. I'm going to build a relationship.